Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jiangxi, aka Year the Collector, and in celebration of 90 years of DC Comics, writer Mark Waid alongside Dave Wilgoss turned back time to the very beginning of the DC universe. In my previous video, I began covering the first page of citations provided by Waid and Wilgoss, from the very inception of the multiverse all the way to the discovery of the H-Dial. Now, let's continue with part 2 of the new history of the DC Universe series. Chapter 14: Expansions. Somewhere else, the universe witnessed the rise of the Spider Guild. These were the drones of a distant civilization bent on conquering and occupying new worlds. For millennia, they seek resources and worlds to cultivate and control them. The first documented encounter with the Spider Guild was with Green Lantern Bring from Sector 1342. The new gods of New Genesis experimented upon early humans to create Heracles, Earth's first superhero. After reaching success in their endeavors, the new gods returned to their homes, hiding in the stars, leaving Heracles to wrestle along with the 666 monsters of chaos. To aid him in these conflicts to come, Heracles was entrusted with 7 imperishable treasures: the sword, the cauldron of rebirth, the all-knowing father box, the hammer, the Merlin sprite made of living language, and the steed of Pegasus. With these, the hushed and profane secret of the enchanted spear, which was able to carry death across time and strike a target many millennia away, whose name is both love and vengeance. Kinda poetic. Even with these weapons at his disposal, Heracles is eventually captured and defeated by the Scavenger King Melmoth and his army, the Sheeta. Chapter 15: Greek Mythology. Before man, even before the birth of the first planet, there was the chaos, the endless full of nothingness. Then, born from chaos was the first life, she who would be mother to all, she who was Gaia. From Gaia came Uranus, who was to be her husband and father of all the gods. From this union of beings, the Titans of myth were born. Like great titans, they strode the universal seas, ruling everything they surveyed. Gaia and Uranus gave birth to 12 of these beings, or so it was told to Donna Troy by Hyperion. Before Gaia left the early plane, she took pity on women whose lives were cut short by men's fear and ignorance. So, to assist the victims of this type of injustice, Gaia created the cavern and the Well of Souls, a place in the Greek underworld that connects to Paradise Island, where the souls of women who have died through unjust acts of male violence reside. They await in this limbo until resurrected to life again. This is the birthplace of the Amazonian culture. Kronos and Rhea, children of Gaia, spawned several godling children, including Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Demeter, and Hera. Zeus rebels against Kronos, transforming him into a gnarled tree in limbo and banishing the other titans of myth into space. Zeus becomes ruler of Olympus with Hera as his wife and queen. The new god, Uxas, visits Earth and, in an attempt to have the Olympian gods' power, causes them to split into 2 distant pantheons. Zeus and Jupiter become the rulers of their individual pantheons, which will become worshipped by Greece and Rome respectively. Meanwhile, other pantheons emerge and vie for domination of Earth's heavens, including the Egyptian gods, and the Indian gods, and the gods of Norse mythology. Chapter 16: Shambhallah. In the 32nd year of the reign of King Thorvald, there came a great cataclysm. The shining continent of Atlantis sank beneath the hungry waves of the Atlantic Ocean. The land that was once the glory of the world lay crushed beneath the swirling emerald waters. But this was not the end of Atlantean civilization. Atlantean scientists had foretold of the great upheaval. Although most scoffed at the prediction of doom, Thorvald sent out expeditions to the four corners of the earth to seek out and colonize new lands, so that their people could survive. Blown far northward by a great storm, the expedition under the command of General Ruggiero discovered warm air currents in the icebound seas at the top of the world. Continuing onward, they entered a vast opening in the earth and found the fabulous world of Scartaris, green and glorious beneath an eternal sun which hangs in the exact center of this world. In a world of savagery, the Atlanteans also found a world of beauty where wild fruit and game abounded. Here, they raised their cities, and the most glorious of all was the golden city of Shambhala. The great cataclysm that sunk Atlantis is also known as the Great Deluge or the Great Flood in other parts of the world. When a giant skull-shaped meteor from outer space crashed into the Earth somewhere near the North Sea, it caused a worldwide geological upheaval, while at the same time a being known as Eclipso, God's spirit of wrath, was the one responsible for flooding the world with unending rains. The only survivors of the Great Flood were safe inside Noah's Ark. Chapter 17: The Rock of Eternity. Long ago, when mankind was still young, magic flowed freely throughout the seven realms. A council of wizards from throughout the lands came together and created a magical castle dedicated to peace and prosperity. The Rock of Eternity became the place of pilgrimage for all magicians and the nexus to the seven lands. Led by Mamaragan, also known as the Wizard or Shazam, they selected Teth Adam as their first champion and bestowed upon him a set of powers. This champion's name was Black Adam, but unfortunately, he did not yield the desired results. In the wake of Black Adam's betrayal, this council of wizards grew fearful of those they believed to be more powerful than them. They turned their eyes to the citizens of the god realm, beings such as Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, Mercury, and the unpronounceable seventh. And the wizards made a plan. They stripped the gods of their powers and they sealed off the doorways to the magic lands. Then they hid the Rock of Eternity from the world, keeping all magic for themselves. Chapter 18: The Flame of Life. In the year 5000 BC, during an age of triumph and trumpeting fanfare, there was a wizard king from the mighty African empire of Kor. His name was Nomo, later known as Dr. Mist. His source of power was called the Flame of Life, and King Nomo was the chosen disciple of the flame. Through the Flame of Life, the people of Kor cured their illnesses and answered all of their questions. In the modern age, Dr. Mist was responsible for founding the Global Guardians. The Ruby of Life and Ring of Life are designed by Dr. Mist and carved by the Tiparanes people. The ruby will later be claimed by Saragon the Sorcerer, the ring by the Spectre. Chapter 19: Magics and Artifacts of Egypt. An ancient alien race known as the Reach visits Earth, leaving behind one of their many scarabs, artifacts of great power designed to be found whenever a world is at its greatest peril, at which time it can be claimed by that world's champion. This scarab, named Kajida, is entombed atop the sarcophagus of the Egyptian ruler Ka-F-Ra. Prince Amenhotep receives the magical Ibis stick and becomes Ibis the Invincible. Defeated by the tyrannical Mesu, the Black Pharaoh, Ibis and his wife Taya begin 4,000 years of suspended animation. Chapter 20. The House of Ji. The son of then powerful Chinese warlord Li Jing fell in battle at a young age. His father, distraught by the loss, preserved his body and scoured the globe in a way to revive his late son. Lowering his fortunes to nothing, he eventually reduced to servitude, scrubbing the floors of a reputed magician in a faint hope the man could help him. After years had passed, the magician finally showed mercy and rewarded Li Jing with knowledge that allowed him to create an elixir of eternal life, using his literal blood and tears. He then entered Nesa's tomb and administered the liquid, successfully resurrecting him. Hearing his father's tragic tale of sacrifice, Nesha grew enraged at what his father was reduced to and beheaded him, promising to never follow such a path. Doing good upon his word, the Nesha rebuilt his fortune and power over the years, becoming attuned to various magics and weaponry. He became known for his cruelty as the Devil Nesha. A team of superpowered beings called the House of Ji arises to combat the Devil Nesha in ancient China. Chapter 21. God's Instrument of Wrath. After the great flood, only one vessel escaped, Noah and his ark. But when God forgave humanity, Eclipso did not. He overreached himself, and that which made him mighty brought him low. Unyielding in his anger and his pride, Eclipso was banished into a prison, one that should have lasted for all time, save for the perfidy of man. So the Lord brought forth another spirit of wrath, one more directed, more suited to God's anger. As the instrument of God's wrath, the specter is released on earth and devastates the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. It was the specter who turned Lot's wife into salt, and it would be the specter who eventually plagued Egypt and the Pharaoh. Chapter 22. Nanda Parbat. The ancient goddess Ramsa Kushna creates the Himalayan paradise Nanda Parbat. Chapter 23. The Fall of Yuga Khan. Yuga Khan was the former patriarch of Apocalypse and its first ruler. Although Apocalypse was the most powerful empire in the universe, and he himself was one of the most powerful beings in existence, none of this was enough for Yuga Khan. Wanting absolute knowledge and absolute power, Yuga Khan, despite the warnings of Isaiah, attempted to breach the very barrier of the source wall, but failed as the barriers were too strong even for his power. As a result of his hubris, Yuga Khan became one of the celestial giants trapped in the Promethean galaxy as a helpless captive for countless thousands of years. Yuga Khan's wife Hegra assumed the throne after Yuga Khan's fall. Chapter 24. The Seven Deadly Sins. In the early age of mankind, a girl named Pandora stumbled upon a magical skull. Without knowing the contents of said artifact, Pandora lifted it from the ground, only to unleash the seven deadly sins on the world, causing mankind to suffer the consequences from there on. People of the world were doomed and influenced by envy, gluttony, pride, greed, sloth, wrath, and lust. Later, the wizard Shazam and the Circle of Eternity re-imprisoned the seven deadly sins unleashed by Pandora. Chapter 25. Rise of the Hawks. Qatar Deathbringer and Shara, the first incarnations of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, appear on Tanagar. Over the centuries, they will continue to reincarnate in many different times on many different worlds, beginning with ancient Egypt's Prince Khufumat, Qatar, and Shayera. Chapter 26. The Wizard's First Champion. In the ancient world, there was a country called Kandak, birthplace of the living lightning wizard Shazam. Same place the wizard escaped due to the brutal nature of the place. Things like slavery thrive in this land. Such was the fate of this one boy among thousands of other men, women, and children who had been captured by the invading forces of the barbaric Ibak and his evil army, the men who invented evil. For many months, this boy was among many sent down into the caves to work. When he collapsed because of the heat or exhaustion, he suffered at the hands of Ibak's men. Many times he wished himself dead. He closed his eyes and wished for help. And finally, help came. The boy's uncle had given the young slave an opportunity to escape, but the boy stayed with his dying uncle. Just when they were convinced the gods had abandoned them, the boy was summoned to the Rock of Eternity, in front of the Circle of Eternity. The wizard chose Ted Adam as his champion, granted him powers beyond belief, and named him Mighty Adam. However, the wizard made a mistake by choosing Ted as his champion, for he was evil at heart. The Circle of Eternity were murdered by Mighty Adam, leaving Mamaragan the wizard as its only survivor. For this betrayal, the wizard renamed his champion Black Adam and banished him from the Rock of Eternity. Chapter 27. The Discovery of Nth Metal. After a Tanagarian ship crashes on Earth, Prince Khufu discovers its power source, the anti-gravity Nth Metal. He began working with the metal, experimenting with it, shaping it. Hidden within its composition were the secrets of the gods themselves, the power of flight, the power of strength, and so much more. Chapter 28. The Dawn of the Amazons. The Amazons are given life by the Olympian goddesses Aphrodite, Artemis, Athena, Demeter, and Hestia. With Hippolyta as their queen, they survived the attacks of Heracles and established a society on the island of Themyscira, building, clearing, planning, keeping their arts and history alive, erecting great halls of justice, sculpting icons to the glory of the gods. The centuries pass, and upon the grounds of paradise, the Amazon nation renews its sense of purpose and discipline. But not all Amazons settle in Themyscira. Half of them were left to wander and eventually settle in the deserts of Egypt. Others, like Aela, remained divorced by choice from both factions. Instead, she would choose a path all her own. Stranded in foreign land, Aela encountered a tribe in the rainforests of Brazil. They dedicated themselves to be united once more to protect this land and its people. Or so was the story of the Bana Migdal and the Esquecida Amazon tribes around the world. Chapter 29. The League of Ancients. Ramakan was the ruler of the nation of Yarampur, which had existed at least 3,000 years ago. During the Obsidian Age of Atlantis, the Ramakan of that time traveled from Yarampur to Atlantis, where he became the joint ruler of Atlantis, sharing the post with Gamennai. The Ramakan had earlier journeyed to Atlantis to assemble a group of heroes known as the League of Ancients, which was formed to fight against the Justice League of the 21st century because of their perceived threat, as envisioned by Ramakan. Chapter 30. The Homo Magi. Parallel branches of humanity, Homo sapiens and Homo Magus, evolved over millennia. The Homo Magus was one with the natural order, controlling those forces we call magic as easily as any mythical sorcerer. The Homo sapiens led a hard, ferocious life, fighting for every little bit of food, learning the art of war, the science of killing. Fearful that their less popular species will be absorbed by the race of Homo sapiens, the Homo Magi take refuge in a valley in the mountains of northern Turkey, concealed by a magical barrier. Chapter 31. Princess Zahava. Before being reborn through the Well of Souls as an Amazon, Nubia was the princess of Madagascar in her past life. During an armed conflict in her past, Princess Zahava led her people to battle, only to be betrayed by one of her own lieutenants at the end. Chapter 32. The Starheart lands on Earth. The Guardians of the Universe eventually set themselves a second task: gather and banish all magic from the cosmos. They locked all the magic they had gathered into the heart of a star, where it was to remain for all of eternity. But even the scientific genius of the Oans was not without its flaws, for unknown to them, the mystic Starheart had become a sentient creature, one who knew that someday, despite the Owens, its sorcerer's power would be released throughout the universe for good and ill. Against all odds, a portion of the force broke away into a meteorite that eventually landed in ancient China on planet Earth. Chapter 33. The Roman Empire. Black Briad Thorn was a leader of the ancient Druids in the British Isles. As such, he had great powers and responsibilities. However, the Druids were killed by Roman forces. In an attempt to circumvent the conquerors, Black Briad Thorn transformed into solid wood with the hopes of mingling with the trees and the surrounding forests. His rules worked, but a group of Druids, in a final effort to defend themselves, created a terrible land magical feature, so that Thorn was swallowed into the earth. The Roman centurion Longinus uses his spear to pierce the side of Christ on the cross. In future years, the weapon becomes known as the Spear of Destiny. In the days prior to the fall of Rome, there were gladiator fights hosted at the Colosseum. A shepherd named Marcus Tiberius was wrongly accused of a crime he did not commit. This changed the fate of Marcus Tiberius, which led him to become a gladiator. In a wild turn of events, Marcus managed to win his freedom. The praetor rewarded him further by giving him a golden helmet and shield. To the cheering crowds of Rome, Marcus became known as the Golden Gladiator. Marcus Aurelius leaves Earth to represent Rome in an alien cultural exchange and, in the modern day, returns to Earth as the Alpha Centurion. I believe we have come to a good stopping point here. This pretty much covers the entire citations of page number 2. In this episode, we cover the history from the first documented encounter of the Spider Guild all the way to the height of the Roman Empire. Like I stated in my previous video, this is basically the result of Waid and Wilcott's cutting, chopping, splicing the publication history of DC and putting it back together in a more chronological order, if you will. If you're familiar with some of these concepts, some of these stories, some of these moments in the history of the DC universe, you might notice that some things were left out or they were changed or completely retconned to fit the one timeline Waid wanted to create for the history of the DC universe. I was not familiar with most of the stuff that you have seen in these 2 episodes so far, and it's gonna be the same deal for the next 2 episodes. There are things here that I was not aware of being in DC Comics, and there's things here that I was familiar with, but I could tell, however, that they were sort of changed to fit this one timeline, this one history that is being told here. If you stuck around for this long in this video, I want to thank you for watching. You have a blessed day, and remember to read more comics.